Yeah,
go whack
exactly. I mean,
them.
it's still part of the game. You know they're going to
Yeah.
come up, and you still got to knock them down.
Yeah, and you're not going to win the game unless you knock them down, right? Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams. I am co-hosted by the great, reasonable Latino, A.D. Robles. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, but probably not as great as you because you just got back from vacation.
This is true. It was very nice. I didn't sleep a lot, so it wasn't relaxing, but it was fun.
Oh, my goodness. Man, your brother was making fun of you on Facebook all week long.
He often does that.
And you just started coming back with shows today. And boy, did you ever pick the day to come back.
I sure did.
Man. Wow.
It's all providential. You know what I mean? But the thing is, honestly, the way the news cycle is these days, any day would have been like that.
That's so true. But yeah, I mean, record-breaking stuff today.
I agree.
And maybe not
groundbreaking.
Definitely groundbreaking and pivotal. I think we're going to look back at this day as kind of like the pinnacle of the shift.
Why do you say that, Matt?
Well, today we had our good friend John Harris get into a conversation with Tim Keller.
Before you move forward, I heard a little birdie told me, and it might have been John himself, that he's attending the Fight Laugh Feast conference.
Is he really?
I think so. That. I think he's going to be an exhibitor, but I'm not sure.
Oh, we should do a show with him.
We should.
That'd be good. Yeah, why not?
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I saw that John Harris was getting into a little Twitter debate with Timothy Keller, the Yoda of the Christian faith, as he's been dubbed by many, or just A.D. Robles, actually. Has anyone else called him that, or was that your thing?
I think somebody else called him that, but I think I was the first to use it in a derogatory way, because Yoda's a very beloved character, but I think he's overrated.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like Star Wars. You watched them probably once each.
Yeah.
And I have to say, though, what you said made a lot of sense. Like, why do we like this guy? He's not really powerful.
No.
Yeah, he's like sorry, go ahead.
No, they tried to redeem him in the prequels. They tried to make him cooler, but even there, he's a failure. Mm-hmm. And then he goes into hiding for like decades. It's like, what kind of a loser does that while the universe burns? Everything
they tried in the sequels failed. There's nothing they succeeded at. Let's be honest here.
That's crazy.
Zahid, hello. How's it going? Thank you for watching live. You guys can watch the show live. We are live streaming. I should just say this mid-conversation. 7:30 Eastern, Thursdays. I'd love for you guys to join us. You can always catch us on the flip side Fridays.
I have to say, the live stream, like the comments have been pretty good lately. We've had a lot of comments lately.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It makes the show, honestly.
It does. It really does.
Certainly not us. But back to this pivotal moment, I think, and I want to talk about why I think it's pivotal. I think you agree with me, AD, is John Harris, a online pundit, got into a discussion with Timothy Keller on Twitter. And to kind of give some background on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Timothy Keller doesn't really respond to things on Twitter. He doesn't really respond to critics at all.
Not often. He has responded in the past. I've seen it. But usually it's a very brief conversation. It's usually one tweet at most. And most of the time when I've seen it, it's been like a special event where he solicits questions. Like he says, okay, let's do a quick Q&A for 30 minutes. And he'll do that kind of thing. And it'll be one tweet responses typically. Not a rule, but as a general, that's what he does. And this is common of most Bigeva type people.
Yeah. And I honestly, if you don't want to be on Twitter that much, totally understand. I'm not knocking him for it. I don't think it's good or bad. It's just what it is. And to me is what makes it so much more significant.
Oh yeah.
Because when I saw it this morning, going back and forth for a little bit, but they've been going back and forth all day today.
Yeah, for a while.
For a while now. And that makes it so much more significant because it's funny. We've started to see a trend. One, they ignored us early on, maybe year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And then they started writing indirect articles at us. Yes. And when I say us, I'm not just meaning AD and myself. I'm just talking about the group of us.
The non-guild commentators, let's say.
Correct. The non-guild. And then they started to talk about how our tone was bad, that you should listen to your pastors, not us, and we shouldn't be saying these things online. We shouldn't have these platforms, even when themselves are trying to have these platforms.
Right.
And then a couple of weeks ago, it turned to, which I thought was kind of a big deal, where even if we're right, we're still not right because of how we're saying things.
Right.
And then now we're seeing that it seems like we're such a threat to them that people like Timothy Keller feels the need to address and argue and defend himself from what we're saying. And that is, to me, not necessarily the game changer, but the evidence of how the game is changing.
That's
Do
right.
you agree?
I completely agree. When I saw this, so I'm one of these that I'll jump on Twitter in fits and starts. So like there'll be sometimes when I don't hit up Twitter for an entire day, and then sometimes I'm on there a lot. And so today was one of those days where I was tweeting out stuff, but I was pretty much ignoring it for the most part. So then I get a DM from John and say, "Are you seeing this?" And I asked him, I don't know, I'm not seeing it, obviously. So he linked me to what was happening. And I shot him one of those Facebook voice messages. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And basically what I told him was, this is remarkable. I hope you're extremely encouraged, because people like Tim Keller don't respond to you on Twitter in a vacuum. It's not like they just randomly happen to see it and we're like, well, I'll respond to this one. You know, it's not like that. Right. It's like he knew the name John Harris. Tim Keller knew the name John Harris and saw this as an opportunity. And so it is remarkable. John Harris is spoken about in Bigeva circles. There's just no question about it. I think John already knew that, but Tim Keller is a player. You know what I mean? He's a big name. Yeah. The highest person that I've ever gotten to respond to me, I think, is probably John Lehman. And I would say B-list probably is John Lehman. Yeah. But anyway, remarkable stuff. And I told John that he should be very encouraged by this. It's a game changer.
Absolutely. He should be very encouraged by this. And he is an A-lister. I mean, he would be like the Yoda in the role. Yes. I mean, he is respected by all the liberal Bigeva people. They look to him, they quote him, they love it. Yeah, he really is.
One of them. He's one of the capos, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think maybe it was when I was earlier on as a Christian and I didn't realize it yet of how his positions were, or maybe he's changed. I'm not sure. But I thought that he used to have a lot of good things to say.
He did.
And I benefited from him a lot. We read his books a lot and those kinds of things. But for some reason, it's just he's maybe the last couple of years that I've been really paying attention, following him, that he's going the way of all these other Bigeva people, where they're being ambiguous, where there seems like they have this ulterior motive that they're not trying to hide, or they are trying to hide, but they really can't anymore. And there's part of this group that is just coming up. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But just to continue with this discussion, what's also fascinating to me is that he doesn't even address what John Harris is talking about. He goes off on another tangent and totally sidesteps what he's trying to confront John Harris about what he's saying to him. It's absolutely remarkable. He looks terrible.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's the typical politician thing. I don't like your question, so I'm going to answer a question I do like. And it's interesting. And I think it's very transparent too, which is very helpful for us, because, typically people on his perspective don't engage. And then when they do, it's something like this typically. Here's something that I don't know if you remember or recall this, Matt, but John Harris's original tweet, I'm pretty sure didn't even tag Tim Keller. Like, it was just a quotation from him about how Marxists aren't villains, and they're like, they care about the poor, stuff like that. This is a ridiculous Marxist quote, right? By Tim Keller. And I'm pretty sure he didn't even tag it. So what's especially remarkable about this is that Tim sought it out.
Or he was told by somebody.
Or he was told, and still he felt the need to respond, which is very interesting. You know what I mean? Very, very interesting.
It is very interesting. And I think it reveals how significant our platforms are. And again, it should be encouraging, not just to John, but to all of us, that we are being effective, not for our own sake, not for our own glory, as you Reform people talk about, but solely for his glory, that we are trying to do this, not for our own names, but that people would return to the Bible, have sound teaching. The people, and I saw this all day today, they're arguing and asking these questions like, how can you say it's a gray area voting for Democrats? How can you say you are excited to see the DNC and the adults return to the room? Am I crazy? And we have these Christians second guessing themselves because it's so mind blowing what Bigeva is doing. And so praise God that we are making a dent, because people need sound voices bringing us back to the Bible, and they're not giving it to us.
Yeah. It's so true. And I might be wrong about him not tagging him. He might have tagged him or retweeted him. I don't know. But the point is that the game has changed, my friends. It is absolutely changed. Like, and this is why you get the think pieces against social media, because social media evens things out. Like, all of a sudden, I don't need to have any connections to have just as much influence as a bigwig, right? And they hate that. They hate that because they don't have guild protection anymore. Yeah, they got the blue check mark, but that's almost like a mark of shame in some circles. Like, you get the blue check mark, that's almost like you shouldn't be trusted anymore. You know, you took the lolly, like you've sold yourself almost in some circles. So it's like they really hate the fact that they don't have guild control anymore, and all of a sudden a yo-yo like John Harris can study some stuff, get a couple degrees. And then he starts a podcast, and all of a sudden, people are listening to John like, dude, you actually make more sense than Tim Keller on this. Mm-hmm. And Tim Keller, he's like Mr. Guild. They hate that. They hate that. That's why they'll write articles about this stuff. And that's why they won't engage on social media, because they don't want to legitimize it. But Tim Keller, John Lehman, Joe Carter, the people that have been responding to us lately, they have legitimized it in their own stupid circles. We always knew it was legitimate, but now they have to admit that it is legitimate. Right. And so this is amazing stuff. And let me just say one more thing before I let you go, Matt, is that I don't care if they respond ever again. I honestly, I've lost the desire to have back and forth. I'll still do it, but I'm not gonna beg for a seat at this table anymore. I spent a year on YouTube saying, somebody please talk to me. Somebody please talk to me. We got to have these conversations. We're past that point. Like, if you want to have a conversation, I will have it, but I'm done asking. I just don't care anymore. I don't need that kind of guild approval anymore. So I don't care if this happens. I'm glad it does. But the thing is, the fact that it did happen means that they know that John Harris, people that are not in the guild, are now a threat to their guild control. People aren't buying into the guild as much as they used to.
Yeah, praise God for that too. And we're doing it without the multi-million-dollar salaries that the ERLC gets away with somehow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, gosh, I wish I can get paid millions of dollars to retweet.
Oh, Matt, that was amazing. So I don't know if everyone saw this on your Twitter feed, but was it last week where we said that basically the ERLC is just a bunch of retweet?
Yes, yeah. That's all they do.
That's all they do. And then, like, today, they retweet some Supreme Court decision. This was the right call. Like, we're so grateful. It's so much of retweets.
They retweeted an article that quotes the ERLC retweeting their support. Let me read it to you. I got to think that this guy at the Baptist Press heard this show and wrote it. Like, why else would you even mention in your article about a Twitter comment by ERLC?
Their own articles their own tweets are newsworthy.
The Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission responded on Twitter by commending the decision and quoting its president, Russell Moore, who had said of an earlier Supreme Court decision in a similar case, what we don't need is a government forcing people to use their gifts to say things that go against their deepest held conviction. So this is like a retweet, because they're quoting in their retweet Russell Moore about a quote he said about another case that didn't have to do with this one.
Unbelievable. This is why their research budget is like $10, because this is their research. They research their own tweets that were retweets of other tweets.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
But it's funny, it reminds me of you ever see those there's this one, like, this YouTube scammer who was like he like claimed to be like the richest 19-year-old or something, and he said that the biggest money-making opportunity of our generation, you're not going to believe this, was basically taking Reddit posts and then having a robot voice read it and uploading it to YouTube. So you don't have to put any effort into the content, but you'll get clicks and you'll get ad revenue by having a robot read the Reddit posts, just word for word, not commenting. I'm just reading them. And he said that was money. That was a scam. Obviously, everyone could see that was a scam. Right. But that's what the ERLC does. they just recycle their own content, which is basically just retweets.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible.
I agree with the human flourishing of the Supreme Court's decision.
They did take a strong stance supporting John MacArthur too. I saw that post. They've been tweeting about it all day long.
Yeah, they're the Ethics and then Religious Liberty Commission, and so this is right up their alley. This is like, this is the thing. Like, this is the reason that they exist, is this exact issue.
I went on their Twitter feed to just see if they did say anything, because I wanted to talk about it on the show, because it's been updated, the developments. California fined them $20,000 and is trying to get them to pay up. And John MacArthur, I'm imagining, is saying no so far. That's about the latest developments I know. We should probably have Phil back on to talk about that. And so I go through, and you know what is like tweeted about over and over again is the rising threat of human rights in China. And that's like the theme that they're going off of right now.
There you go. That's their thing. So in the middle of a religious liberty crisis, and if you remember last week, they had one of his goons. He spent a couple hours with the LA governor or mayor's office, and he was very encouraged by the end of that meeting. If you remember, he was very encouraged about the partnership that they had forged there. And then this week they're getting fined $20,000 or whatever, at least
$20,000. Yeah.
And they're really concerned about China.
They're very concerned about China.
Listen, it's okay to be concerned about China, but I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission should probably concern themselves with religious liberty here instead of just LARPing everywhere else.
Yeah, you would think. I don't know. That's what I would do if I was a fundamentalist. If I was representing the Southern Baptist Convention, I don't know of too many Southern Baptists in China, but I would think maybe in the Southern China Seas or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so just all that to say this is we don't care about sitting at their tables. And in fact, I don't want to. I don't care if they respond to us ever again. The significance of it and the joy I have of seeing the validation that they've given podcasting platforms like us is for the other people that are watching. Because whether Keller knows it or not, whether Lehman knows it or not, or whoever writes their articles about us, they are not only sounding stupid because their arguments are foolishness.
Yes.
But they're validating us and allowing and giving permission for other people to listen to us and hear what we have to say.
That's right.
And I don't think they realize that. I don't know if they did or not, but that's what they did. And that's what I'm thankful for.
Well, I think they do realize it. And let me say this, Matt, because this is, I think, the main reason why they don't engage in general, because they're afraid. And I think I've seen this in a couple of articles. I think it was an article by the president of Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, who's typically a pretty good guy. So he said that one of the reasons he doesn't engage is because he doesn't want to give the story legs. So this is something they talk about, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that they have been engaging means that they're in a desperate situation and they know it. They're in dire straits. They can see that I can upload a video onto YouTube and it gets just about as many views as theirs, which has production value, a nice microphone. Everyone's complaining about my mic. I get it. My production value sucks and I'm working on it, but
including me, by the way.
Right. You're one of them. But anyway, the point is that they've got these big budgets and they can't seem to figure it out. They don't understand what it is. And the reality is it's your message. Nobody wants to put up with it. Nobody wants to hear a bunch of whining sissies. So that's it. What it is, you're not going to change your message, so you're just going to, try to delegitimize it. And so that it's desperate. They know that this doesn't look good. They know that they've written articles about the dangers of social media, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
They are desperate. They have no other choice. They have to engage, and they'll continue to engage. And I'll tell you right now, like I said, I don't care if you do or not anymore. I'm done with that. That part of that was old AD when I was really winsome. I've stopped caring about that. I don't care. I'll come to your conference, but it's going to cost you. I'm not coming for free. And that's that.
Yeah. I don't even know, honestly. I don't even know. I mean, a lot of these, maybe there'll be some exceptions to it where I don't even want to come to your conferences. I don't want to be associated with you at all. And this goes back to what I've talked about before and what we've discussed is that we don't know anyone's heart. We can't judge where they're at ultimately. But we do and can and are commanded to judge people's actions. And a majority of these Bigeva people asking us to vote Democrat, paving the way for people to vote Democrat, are sinful people. They are encouraging, supporting, and condoning murder, pedophilia, the platforms of Black Lives Matter that wants to destroy the family. Everything that the Bible and our God stands for, they are opening the doors to condone, endorse, and support. I don't want anything to do with you guys anymore. I don't even want to be associated with you. I wish we can define Christians differently so that you guys could be as far away from me as possible. It's like, I always, there was like, back in the day when the teachers, like somebody cheated on their test and they thought, oh my gosh, did they catch me? Did they like, and then you think like, oh, am I guilty? Did I accidentally cheat? And maybe you didn't even do it, but you were really concerned that it was you and you were going to get in trouble for it. Yeah. I always felt that way about the lukewarm believer where Jesus talks about in Revelation, where it's like, oh, because I do sometimes cling to this world and I do sometimes have to repent of idolatry in my life and putting things above God. And does God consider that? And honestly, 2020 has totally clearly shown what a lukewarm Christian looks like. And it's somebody that supports a party that advocates for child murder and someone who justifies it. And it absolutely is disgusting. It's sick. And it makes me want to throw up. I totally see now what God is talking about, spitting water out of your mouth, because I want to do the same thing. So no, I don't want to go to your conferences. I don't want to be supported by those of you doing this. It's disgusting. It's disingenuous. And we don't even have the same Father anymore. And I'm treating you that way based on your actions and what Romans 1 tells me.
Wow. That's fire, man. Let me say this as well. I would be probably 100 times more likely to accept your weirdo reasoning for why you could vote for a pro-choice candidate if you weren't simultaneously telling me that we can't even have fellowship with racists. Like they can't be allowed at the table. I would kick them out of my church, and basically you can't vote for Donald Trump because he's a racist. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that your brain can't see the problem there, right? You can nuance killing babies to death, but a racist somehow non-negotiable, non-starter. Like if you don't understand why that's so obviously, transparently stupid to say something like that and to act like that, I would argue that that's evidence of God's judgment. Like he's made you stupid. Yep. He's made you stupid. It's not like normal human level stupid where you make an oopsie. Because every human makes mistakes, right? We do oopsies every now and then. I say stupid things, right? Yeah, I even said one today. I misspoke, right? Human level stupid oopsies, right? But God can actually reach down and twist you so much that right is left, up is down, all that kind of stuff. And so like when one side of your mouth, Jonathan Leeman's like, well, I would never have fellowship with a racist. I would be strong and brazen. You could get out of my church. Like, we don't believe you, first of all. But if you are going to go with that, you can't then go, but I accept the ultimately nuanced thing that somehow if you have welfare, there's less abortions even if you're pro-choice. And even that reasoning, like in the video today, like I did, even that reasoning is like, well, I'm not trying to be pragmatic about this. Like, I'm against abortion. It should be outlawed because God says so. It's simple. And whatever. But like, this is the whole thing. Like their reasoning makes no sense on the face of it. I'm supposed to think Trump is the devil because, he doesn't want illegal immigration, but Biden's not the devil because though he might be pro-choice, I might disagree strongly on some political issues, but he's for human flourishing and for the Black community. So I could easily see someone voting for him.
It's absolutely crazy.
Can I stop you real quick before you get into this? Because I just got something hot off the presses.
Oh, love it. Okay. Breaking news. This came from a friend. I'm not going to name him because I don't know if he wants to be named. A lot of my friends are like that, Anyway. The AND campaign, Matt? Mm-mm. Okay, the AND campaign is this thing. We're going to have to talk about this because this is what people are being duped by right now. So like old school stuff, there were some things, Jim Wallace, Sojourners. That was what people used to get duped by before. The AND campaign's the new hotness. And actually, Tim Keller is on the AND campaign. He's on the executive board or whatever it is. Okay. And the AND campaign is justice or it's something like it's basically trying to say that a Christian can't be a Republican or a Democrat. There's this third way. We got to have both, right? Basically all it is a campaign that's lying to you, pretending like you can't be Democrat or Republican, but vote Democrat is what it is. Oh.
But it's kind of been low key for a while that they were like
Mhm.
that. As soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. Not because I'm smart, but because I'm just in this field. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Today, they retweeted a post from Michelle Obama. Remember, Tim Keller sits on this board.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Michelle Obama. Joe Biden is a profoundly decent man, guided by his faith. As president, he will honor the lives and experiences of every American because that's what he's always done. I can't wait for you to see the Joe I know tonight. In the meantime, text vote to whatever it's a political plug, right?
Right.
And the Yank campaign is retweeting this. So
Yeah.
it's like, so the mask is slipping. They're getting desperate. They can't play the game anymore, right? They
Right.
have to do, so I just wanted you to see this because this is Tim Keller, right? This is what he's promoting.
Yep.
He might not say, I want you to vote for Biden, but everything he does say, and the boards that he sits on, and all of his actions and activities are designed to get you to do that.
He doesn't have the balls to say it.
That's exactly what I
it
said in my
is.
video today. Bigeva is too sissy to actually say what they want, so they try this other stuff. They think this is going to work.
Yeah, it's a bunch of effeminate fighting. That's what it is.
It is. I don't think it's going to work, but this is what their attempt is, and the mask is starting to slip. You're starting to see them get a little more open about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, that's why I'm so thankful about 2020. I'm so thankful and been able to find joy in God's judgment, because I don't know if we said this before we went live or not, but it is like the whack-a-mole game that these people are getting forced to put their head up, and for us to be able to knock them down. They're no longer being able to hide behind their confessions. They're no longer be able to hide behind ambiguity anymore, that they are forced, for whatever reasons they feel it's raining and they got to get some air. I don't know, but they're coming up and we need to knock them down because it's evil. It's evil. Romans 1, talking about judgment and God handing them over, at the very end of it says that it's judgment for those practicing and those who give approval to those who practice them. And if that approval is not in a vote or saying that it's a hard decision and we shouldn't bind their conscience, that is approval. That is approval.
Yeah.
And you're condoning everything on their platform. And I would, maybe in a hypothetical world where you had to choose a Republican or a Democrat, maybe, like, I still can't even go there. Like, I still would, I don't know how you could vote a Democrat as a Christian, but you don't have to vote at all. So there's absolutely no reason, no excuse whatsoever. Even if you can't stand Donald Trump, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not saying as a Christian, you have to vote for Republicans. You have to vote for Donald Trump. I'm not saying that. Totally understand it. But it's that you're voting for the platform that is standing against every single thing that God stands for. How dare you call yourself a Christian? How dare you?
Oof.
And I can say that not because it's my opinion, not because we just disagree. This isn't philosophical, but it's because I have the word of God that says liars, murderers, gossips, disobedient, foolish people, ruthless, they deserve death. It's not me saying how dare you, it's God. And those who condone it, the same.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing that, and again, like I said, I'd be much more likely to accept the reasoning if it wasn't so contradictory on the face of it. I mean, these same people would never, and they're on record saying that you don't have the right to call yourself a Christian if you have racism in your heart or whatever it is, or you're promoting racist things or whatever. Like a lot of them are on record saying that. And so I guess I have to believe that not liking, someone because of the color of their skin in their twisted mindset is actually worse than killing people. You know what I mean? It's killing babies. Like I have to assume that that's what you mean, but it's not what they mean. They just are all twisted up. They've been made stupid.
Of course. And they're not consistent. They're full of crap because Matthew Hall is still at teaching in seminary, right? He's still a provost. I haven't heard anything about him resigning or getting fired.
Yeah.
So I guarantee that they're hanging out with him. They approve him. So I just don't believe a word they're saying. So this is the other thing I wanted to hit on. This is I've been seeing a lot today of terms being redefined. Honestly, this has been something that's been consistently done by the Marxists, by the people on the left, by these Christians that call themselves Christians. is they'll say a word and they'll mean something completely different. It's pretty Mormonish, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that's lying. That is sinful. You're being dishonest. You're not telling the truth. And we should call them out on it as such. We shouldn't put up with the games anymore. If God has blessed us and given us grace to see these moles whack up, we need to start hitting them and start calling them out, not only for their sake, so that hopefully God will bring them to repentance. And if they do, I'll welcome them with open arms. Again, this isn't personal. I'm not angry at them. I don't have a grudge against any of them, but it's their message. It's what they stand for. And I pray for their repentance. I'm not trying to win like users. I'm not trying to win their seats at the institutional, country club, whatever, but I want them to repent. But we need to call it out, not just for them, but for their followers as well. It is our responsibility, because just letting it go is a way of us condoning it in some sense too.
So we got a question for you, Matt.
Okay. Yeah, we have good questions I want to hit.
Okay. So Eric Yeager.
Oh boy.
Who are you voting for?
Oh, I'm voting for Trump for sure.
Explain yourself.
100%. Okay. So I didn't vote for him last time because, one, I didn't believe him. I thought he was lying. I thought he was going to be a Democrat. I thought he was running the most genius play in the world, playing into the anger and all that stuff, and was going to come in and basically just rule as, probably Bill Clinton-ish kind of positions. I am voting for him now because, one, I think his record justifies it. I think he's done a pretty good job. He's done better than most presidents in my lifetime. And I can't stand any of the freaking Democrats at all. And I can't stand the people trying to justify their positions and how self-righteous they are and looking down and being condescending at Trump when they're just as bad, or if not worse. So it's a combination of, I think Trump's done a pretty good job, and I can't stand them.
So let me ask you this. So some people, a lot of people were in your same boat, and they were saying, well, I don't know if I trust him. I think he's a secret Democrat. A lot of people said that, I think.
Yeah.
Because it made sense. I mean,
he's hanging out with Bill Clinton and Hillary all the time. Yeah.
Right. So then now I've heard some people say this. So I want to know what your thoughts are on this. So, okay. So he had to be like Republican-ish to get reelected, essentially. Like if he didn't do anything right, then he wouldn't get reelected. Okay. So now he doesn't have to worry about reelection, presumably, because he only gets 2 terms, unless he just usurps power, right? So now he'll be more like he would have been in the first place, more liberal. Do you think that there's any merit to that at all?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, I will say it is in the sense that he's a populist. Like, I don't think he's claiming to be a conservative. So therefore, I think that it's not that he's like going back on his word, or that he is going to be. I don't even think he's being disingenuous. If he would do some liberal things, I think he's pragmatic and a populist. So he's going to do what needs to get done for what he thinks is a deal. So he will compromise. He will give up things that I wouldn't give up. And I think that's what we've seen. And there's no way that the Democrats have treated him the way that they have if they thought he was on their team. There's no way. I mean, they're starting the impeachment talks again. They're starting the Russian collusion talks again. So there's no way. There's no way. They don't believe it either, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I listen. It's always a possibility, I suppose. Anyone that you vote for could go against what they said they were going to do.
But I would Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's true. I would say he's been way better than I thought he would be the first time. Way better. And so I think he's done a decent job. Now, there's so many things I could quibble with him about, and there's so many things that I would be completely against what he did. Like the way I'm thinking about it these days is that I'm looking at the differences between the two. And the thing is, like, the stimulus bucks, that's going to, I mean, the Democrats are for that as well. Like, they're both for it. So it's like, there's really not really that much of a difference and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's always a concern, but it's going to be a concern for anybody, not just Trump.
Yeah, for sure. And we always got to hold them accountable. Like, we should never feel comfortable enough with any politician that we just do hands off and let them ride. And we should always be on them and be accountable. And okay, so going back to some of these comments, because I want to address these. Some of these are good. Sean said, we're going to bookmark the stream when y'all have 1 million subs and y'all change. And I think, honestly, Sean, I want you to bookmark this. I want you to remind us of this. I want you to call us on this. This is something that I have shared with all of my podcast colleagues behind the scenes for some time, is that we have to remember that these people were like us
Sure.
earlier on, and
Sure.
that we all have the danger of not finishing strong, not staying faithful.
Mhm.
And we have to encourage each other, not only to stay faithful, but not even have that institutional mindset that we need to be discipling others, growing them to take over our positions. We don't want to sit in a high castle and push everyone off. We want to have discipleship relationships. We want to be pushing everyone towards Christ. And so please, all of you, hold us accountable. We want the pushback. We want to stay faithful. And sometimes we're not. We have a sin nature. We have tendencies to build pride. That's something we constantly have to check. So please bookmark it and please call us out on it. I beg you.
Yeah. Well, every now and then I'll put out a video that's a little crazy where I'll say something, insane. Like, let's think of something that I think we should bring back slavery in instances of theft where you can't pay back what you stole. So I think I've got some built-in, kind of baked-in beliefs that will never allow me to have over a certain amount of support.
Well, see, 80, that's your problem, is you're just saying it wrong. It's saying we need to end the prison system, slavery system, and make it more humane by connecting it to the victim. So it's not you bringing it back. It's us doing prison reform, basically. Right?
It's true. I could say it that way.
Yeah, you got to just brand it correctly.
Oh man, but no, it's actually I think he's hit the nail on the head. That is the temptation where you get big enough and you want to keep it. You want to keep the record deals, or not the book deals coming in and stuff like that, the conference speaking fees and things of that nature. And it's hard to do that if you're actually just telling the truth. So that's why you get the soft pedaling stuff. That's why you get, well, God just whispers about sexual sin. You can't keep a platform as big as his without saying stuff like that. At least that's what they think. It's not true, but that's what they think.
Right. Let's see. Adele says the sheep's clothing is slipping off. Absolutely right. Democrats hate the gospel. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of Christians do, quite honestly.
Yeah, and that sheep's clothing thing is something I think about a lot because everyone knows about wolves in sheep's clothing. I mean, it's a verse that we've all memorized, and that concept that's kind of made its way into pop culture. And it's like, but like, really think about what that means. Like, it's not talking about real sheep. He's talking about people that have all the attributes. They say all the right things. They seemingly are part of you. Like, they go to the same conferences you do. They go to the same charity events that you do. You know what I mean? Like, they look like you, they sound like you, they speak like you, and they don't speak like a wolf. They don't snarl. They baa, whatever that means. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, so when you really think about that, then we need to be prepared for people that we thought were solid. They were solid, we thought, for years, and then it turns out that they're really not. That's difficult because it's like that could be anybody. But the only way to really know is to be, very careful about believing the word and understanding the word, for yourself. Not isolated, but make sure that when something doesn't add up, you're saying, "Hey, that doesn't make sense. Can you explain that to me?" And then when it doesn't make sense even further, the explanation, like, put that in your back pocket, because it's like not everyone has to be right on everything, but like eventually enough of these things add up, and it's like, was he even a teacher worth listening to anymore? I don't know.
Right. And I think for me too, with seeing the sheep clothing fall off, for lack of a better word or phrase, is I think it has encouraged me to, in the future, when I am suspect of people, to actually go to them and ask for clarity and not just give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. I think that is something that will be very helpful for the future if we ever do come into these situations again, where we are going to need brothers and sisters to fight side by side with us. If we go to them early on and know and get clarity, even if they are not saying what we want them to say, at least I know where they stand and I'm not going to rely on them when it comes to the battle anymore.
That's right. Yeah. They hate that, when they get challenged on explaining something, or, hey, you used to say this, but now you say this. It seems like something's happened. Something's changed. Here's what I would say about that. I would say that pay attention to those who are willing to talk to you about that or explain themselves, or when they change, they make a big deal of it and they say, hey, I used to believe XYZ about immigration or whatever. Now I believe this, and here was my thought process from getting from point A to point B. Those people are generally, people that you should at least listen to, hear them
Oh
out.
yeah, for sure.
But the people that are like, I've always been the same when they clearly haven't, I've always believed this when they clearly haven't, like probably not worth paying attention to in any way. You know what I mean? They're just not. Yeah. But the funny part is, like, a lot of times those transition stories of like why I now no longer believe what I used to, they don't make any sense. It's like, why I came out in support of gay marriage. Well, my son turned out to be gay. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just a terrible reason. Right. But at least they have the guts to say, well, I changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, those aren't sheep's clothing. Those are just wolves.
Those are just wolves. Good point.
Which reminds me of, who was it? It was Chris Kyle in the movie where they talk about sheepdogs. And then, did you see that movie, Lone Survivor? No, it's not Lone Survivor. That's not the right one. The Chris Kyle one where he's a sniper and he ends up getting killed at the end. Oh, no. True story. Fantastic. It's played by, what's his name? I'm not going to remember his name. Great movie. Anyways, it's about a Navy SEAL, and his father is teaching him that there's three kinds of people in the world. There's the wolves, the sheep, and the wolf dog. And he basically is training his two boys to become, I'm not wolf dogs, sheepdogs, the sheepdog. And they're saying that you need to basically have the characteristics of a wolf,
right? But
for good, to fight off the wolf,
right? The
wolves, and protect the sheep. I just love that analogy, and like that's what I want to raise my son and future sons, if I have any more sons, to be. It's like, I want you to not just be a sheep. You can definitely not a wolf. Like, and he talks about like, I will beat the crap out of you if I find out you're being a wolf. But I want you to be a sheepdog where you're defending and stuff. And like, that's what we need so much more in the Christian fight right now, in Christian circles, in Christian platforms, is neither the wolf or the sheep, but wolf dogs that are actually going to start standing up and confronting these things. And it's so weird that John MacArthur is the one to look to right now for that as an example. And like, who else?
Yeah, he's doing a great job right now. It's amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So maybe I gave this or sent this to you back when you were on vacation, so I don't remember if you saw this. But Governor Tom Wolf made this argument that totally proves another point that we've said. I'm telling you, we almost get the prophet status for calling things this year. He basically made this argument that, hey, we've told you to wear a seatbelt in your cars, so why don't you just do what we say and wear a face mask? And I don't know if you started to realize like the brilliance of this, but this totally, again, is a whack-a-mole situation where we're seeing the government overreach in one spot. Mm-hmm. Who are you to tell me if I need to wear a seatbelt or not in my car?
Right.
And then down the line, what seems like a small battle is like, oh, you don't love your neighbor, you're not going to buckle up and wear your seatbelt. To now it's, well, we've already told you to do that, so do this. That's their thinking and logic, what we are been warning you about for the last couple of episodes.
Yeah. Well, I wear a seatbelt. I think people should wear seatbelts because it makes sense to wear a seatbelt, in my opinion. But yeah, this is the kind of thing. Instead of just giving him the argument, we all agreed that the law can tell you to wear a seatbelt. Why did we all agree that, by the way? Like that actually should be off the books. Right. There should be no seatbelt law. Right. I'm going to wear one anyway. You know what I mean? I got news for you. I'm going to wear one anyway. But this whole idea that you have to wear a seatbelt by law. Let's just abolish that. You're right, Wolf. Let's abolish that.
Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't be telling us to do that either. Yeah. I appreciate it. And I do. I agree too. I want to wear a seatbelt. I think that is very wise. But I do not think it's wise for the government to tell me to. Right. And the consequences that come from that are not good. For example, the price of your car is more expensive because the government mandates you must wear a seatbelt, because there's sensors in your car now that are required by regulations that you have to wear a seatbelt. And if you don't, the little buzzard thing goes off, reminds you to wear the seatbelt. They wouldn't have put that in there if this wasn't the law, if the regulations didn't tell you to do that. So you have to pay for that, and you have to pay for a more expensive car. So there's a lot of incidents like that, on top of that we're just giving them more and more ground for them to capitalize on, gain momentum, and to win future battles for. Yeah. And I bring that up again because here we go again, another prophetic moment by Reformgelical, you and me, Scientists warn it may be years before students can return to school without masks and doing social distancing.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of two adults behind glass with masks on. Oh my gosh, it's so insane, man.
Listen. Why ever? Like, there's always going to be a new virus. We're going to be caught with our pants down eventually. So why risk it? Let's just wear the mask forever. Why risk it? I don't understand this whole thing. Like in the beginning of this whole coronavirus pandemic. It's a pandemic. In the beginning, I remember saying to somebody who was getting all indignant, "Oh, you don't want to wear a mask? Oh, you're just one of those guys who doesn't want to wear a mask." And I was like, "Well, listen, flu virus, whatever. We didn't wear a mask during the flu." And he goes, "Well, the death rate of this is 100 times, it's 300 times as much as the flu." And I said, "Okay, let's just play a stupid game. You want to play stupid games? Let's play stupid games." And I said, "What is the death rate that would cause you to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have to wear the mask?" Mm-hmm. Where's the line? I want to know the line. Remember I said that at the very beginning? Yeah. Just give me the line. Yeah. And of course he didn't, because he couldn't. It was just trying to get me to do something. You know what I mean? It's not really about principles. But the thing is, they were smart. I'll give them this. They were a little smart not to give us the line, because they didn't know what the death rate was going to end up being. And so whatever number they would have said, the death rate is actually far lower than that.
Right.
And so, but if we're all going to wear the mask, there is no line. It's just why is it worth the risk? Even if it was 0.00001%. Mm-hmm. And we could save one life, we just got to save one life.
Just one life. That's all.
So wear the freaking mask. And while you're at it, put some goggles on. And I got a story. Yes. So I was in the mountains of West Virginia, driving to my dad's house, and we stopped at a rest stop. It was early in the morning. We left early because we wanted to get there early. Mm-hmm. And so it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. We stopped at this rest stop. All right. Nobody's there. Nobody. Because it's 6:30 in the morning, in the middle of West Virginia.
Right.
So we stop, get out, we're going to go to the bathroom. And then another family pulls in. I guess they had the same idea. They were going to get there early. And so they sit next to us. They park next to us, and they get out of the car. The wife and the father get out first. And then they have 3 kids, just like we do. And the kids are like, "Okay, Bobby, I'm ready." And they're putting on gloves. They put the mask, and then they put a face shield, like they're going welding. All of them had their own face shield. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, there's nobody at this rest stop. We're done with the bathroom. We were coming out. What is going on here? And I'm like, well, actually, it makes perfect sense. And in fact, we should always walk around with these welding shields, because why risk it?
Well, AD, it actually makes perfect sense. West Virginia, you're a minority. They were racist.
No, they weren't. And
they weren't.
I can prove it, because the woman was black and the husband was white. I knew you were going to say that. And that's the best part of the story. And their kids were a nice tan color, kind of like me. And they were being indoctrinated in a culture of fear, because the coronavirus is coming. And you can even get it when there's nobody around, apparently.
Apparently. It's contagious within the family. I mean, apparently. From each other. Wow. American Sniper Bradley Cooper, Joe Varner, thank you for texting us that. I appreciate that. That was the name I was looking for. But I bring up this story not to make fun of public schools, although they deserve all the mockery we can give them, and not to make fun of the picture of them wearing face masks, both behind a shield. So apparently a shield or a face mask isn't enough.
That's why you got to wear the welding mask, you see.
Because the masks are worthless, but the welding mask, let it drip down all right down into your face. If they are going to advocate for this, the scientists, the priests of their religion are going to do it for their churches and their indoctrination centers. Do you really think they're going to let us churches skate by for years and years to come?
And the churches have to say no. They have to.
Do they? I mean... I think they're going to extend their sabbaticals and go off for another year. We're not coming back till 2022.
It's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous.
Matt, it's too dangerous. You don't understand. And the worst part is that, I don't know if you knew this, Matt. Maybe you've heard this. Viruses mutate, and so even if we get our vaccine, but you never know, because it could mutate, and then it's a new strain. Then you need a new vaccine. And it's like, well, and we never know which strain's going to come. You remember, how like in the flu, like they give you the different vaccines. There's like 4 different flus that go around, and like you got to guess which one's the right one. But the thing is, like, we don't know about coronavirus. There could be 8 strains. We don't know. And so we just have to wear the shield and the mask and the goggles and the full hazmat suit for the rest of time.
Mm-hmm. Unless we're on Grindr, according to
well, if you're having sex with another guy, like that's different.
Yeah, that's different. It discriminates against homosexuals, apparently. Jacob, I looked in your comments. I don't know what you're talking about. You said that Cross Politics talked about something we haven't. I don't know what you're referring to.
Astronaut helmet. So Eureka Hope says that we need to wear an astronaut helmet, and I think that would be preferable. In fact,
that would work.
It would work. But the thing is, though, that if we were going to mandate that, we would also need to supply the poor with astronaut helmets because they can't afford them. Mm-hmm. So like it would be systemically racist to mandate astronaut helmets but not supply them as well. So you need to pay for your neighbor's astronaut helmet in order to attend church.
I think that's about right.
My video today, my Fight Laugh Feast video today, because churches are wrestling with this, and listen, I'm all for giving as much grace as possible. I get it. But like the thing is, like, there are theological implications here too. Like the whole mask mandate at churches, there are some theological problems with that. And the thing is, like, I think that even the most committed statist pastor kind of knows this, it's weird. Yeah. It's weird to wear a mask worshiping God as a rule, like forcing people to do it. And the thing is, like, most people just in my church, people wear masks, but then like during singing and stuff like that, most people take them off. I think they realize that that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's like, good, good. I'm glad, because it is bizarre. But yeah, like this is a permanent state. There's no, as long as the TV man's telling you, some of these churches are just committed to the position of just doing it.
Yeah. And so we better get ready, because we're going to have to fight this sometime, guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, someone's going to have to stand up with MacArthur. They're not going away. They're not stopping. Yeah. If they're doing it in their schools, they're going to do it to our churches. So we better be prepared for that. So we'll see. All right, Jacob has a question. Here it is. What are your thoughts on abolitionism and their stances against the pro-life movement?
Yeah, so I'll give you mine. My opinion is that I sympathize very much with. I got distracted. Sorry. I sympathize with the abolitionist position, where it's like you go for the ban and nothing else, because everything else is a compromise that is ungodly. You know what I mean? Like to vote for, like, here's like the typical example: to vote for a heartbeat bill, which are very popular, these heartbeat bills, where after they have a heartbeat, you can't kill them anymore. That is fundamentally an unjust law. So why would you vote for an unjust law? Because just because the baby doesn't have a heartbeat doesn't mean it doesn't have the image of God. Right. That's their argument. It's a very good argument.
It is a good argument.
I have a hard time arguing against it. Mm-hmm. But I like at the same time, I wonder how much it helps to be like, to not being like trying to like get some kind of a coalition going. You know what I mean? I'm squish on it. So I don't really have, I don't consider myself one of these like absolute, like, if you're not an abolitionist and you're voting for a heartbeat bill, I'm against you. I'm not that way, but I get it. And I admit I'm squish on it. If it was me, and put it this way, maybe this will help. I'm not saying that every politician that I support has to be an abolitionist. If it was me in the seat, though, I would be an abolitionist. I'd be the one proposing the bill to just outlaw it as often as I could, in as many ways as I could. You know,
and if I was a governor, I would make it illegal. I would start just interpreting the law that is murder and just go after them. And if I get impeached, if I get kicked out, I don't care. I'm not going to answer to God and say, well, the laws told me I couldn't do anything about it, so I'm just going to let the slaughter continue. But from a voter perspective, I'm all plays. I'm going to vote for any of them and just hope for momentum to get the victory. But ultimately, I think it's because the church hasn't been faithful.
Yeah. Jacob, he's saying if there's more than one bill, abolition bill, the politician will always take the easier one. I completely agree. I can't listen. I recognize I'm being squished here. There are look a lot of old AD is he's squished on some things, and he admits
that's that nuance in him trickling through.
But I do listen. I get criticized for this every now and then. Like I do want to build as big a coalition as possible. Not everyone needs to be exactly like I am, in my view. Even though
That's
I think
the name of the show.
Even though I think that they should be, because I'm right on everything.
Obviously.
but yeah, no, Jacob, I like the idea of, just hardcore abolition. Like that's what we should be going for every time. That
Amen.
And that's it. So I don't know if that answers your question. Tony, I'm going to sidestep here. Tony, okay. Tony DePayne, brother Tony, fellow Fight Laugh Feast Network
previous
podcast.
Guest on the show.
Yes, sir. He says this: mask mandates at church are a ceremonial law from the state to say that you are clean or unclean to worship God. This is a big problem. I agree with him because, like, listen, I'm all for pastors saying we recommend that you wear a mask. We want to, stem the tide. We've got old people we recommend you. I'm okay with that. Right. But the requirement thing, that's a step that's too far. It's too far because we don't want to give the state or even the elder the right to require things in order to to worship God. I've been corrected. It's Tony DePayne. Tony DePayne. And so this is a big deal. This is actually a big deal. Like we can't just say in order to come to the table, you have to have a certain amount of equipment on. Mm-hmm. Because that's what mask is. It's a piece of equipment. We don't want to do that because God doesn't allow us to do that, right? Yeah. God doesn't allow us to do that. We have the quarantine laws. We can talk about what that means and the sick and what you do with them. But like when it comes to God's worship on the Lord's Day, he's told us what we can and cannot do. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we cannot do is add extra things that you need to have in order to be willing to be allowed in. That's what we're talking about. Like to allow them in. Like if a church would actually remove you or tell you not to come if you're not wearing a mask, that's another step above. It's because like there's some churches out there that are probably like Walmart where they say mask is required to come in here, but like you walk in and you take off your mask instantly, nobody's going to say anything for the most part. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it works. Like, yeah, it's required, but we're not going to do anything about it. Like that's, but then to think that there are churches out there that are saying, don't come. You can't come to the table this Sunday because you're not going to wear the mask.
I would hate to answer to God
tough.
About that Sunday.
That's tough.
I would hate to do that. You are giving requirements for worship that God never gave. Like, who do you think you are?
It's tough stuff.
It is
tough stuff.
And again, like requirements, we're talking requirements. We're not saying if you suggest it or advocate for it, like that's one thing.
Sure.
But when you require it, you are infringing on the authority of the family and the head of household. You are castrating the man by making his decisions for him, just as much as the state does that with us and telling us to wear a seatbelt. You are treating men as children and not allowing them to lead their families.
And I'll also say this, like I would suggest as well, the reason why I said, Eureka says churches can request that you wear a mask, but a mandate sounds legalistic. That's true because it is legalistic. But also the request though, I want to say something about that. I kind of want to nuance that because I want to leave precedent open for, a real pandemic, in other words, where there's actual real risk for a church to say, we recommend you wear a mask if you're going to come to the Lord's table, right? I want to leave room for that. But like
recommendations are fine.
But
I'm
yeah,
totally
right.
Okay with that.
But I would say in this fake pandemic that there's going to come a line when it's like, you got to stop the request too, because it's you're looking stupid, at this point.
Yeah.
And that line is probably passed, but I could at least give a little grace to say that maybe it hasn't passed, because you look at the DNC, nobody's wearing a freaking mask. Like you look at all kinds of different situations where nobody's wearing a mask. Like it's just crazy. Yeah. And so I'm willing to give grace that maybe the line hasn't been crossed yet for the recommendation, but eventually there's going to come a time when you just got to stop with the recommendation too.
Maybe, I don't know. It's so people are so unprepared for this. It's just amazing to see. We desperately need men teaching frameworks of how to think biblically and address these things, because this battle's not ending. Years to come.
Men like Tony DePayne.
Yes, from the patriarchy, who always tries to put a shameless plug in for himself, no matter what the conversation is about. We could be talking about feminism, and somehow he will plug his show. Tony DePani, the patriarchy.
That actually seems like an appropriate time to plug your show.
Yeah, that's probably right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us live. Appreciate it. Thank you for your feedback, supporting us on patreon.com/reformgelical. You guys have basically covered our costs for this show, and I'm so thankful for that. I really appreciate all of your support, sharing the show. Saying goodnight for AD Robles and myself. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.
Adios.